Hello, I am Beth Porter of Earth and Ether, and I am a lot of things, but I'm a designer turned healer, and I studied and now practice the modality called emotional polarity technique. It's also goes by the name of EPT. So not EFT like tapping, but emotional polarity technique. So I have been working with this modality since I've been receiving it since 2015. I've been working with it. I started studying it at the very beginning of 2018. So I've been with this modality for a long time, and it has been the most impactful healing modality that I've experienced in my life. And so hence why I have opened a practice and started to share this with others. Now, here's the thing. EPT is kind of hard to explain, and I've struggled for a long time to put it in the right words and to, illustrate the best way to, explain it enough so that if you're new and you're interested and you're looking for a solution for issues that you might be experiencing, for it to be easy for you to make a decision on whether or not this is the right pathway for you to try out. So I'm going to do my best right now to explain what EPT is. And then I also, want to encourage you to check out my website and listen to and read through the testimonials. So I think sometimes it's helpful to hear how other people have experienced, this work and the work with me, in addition to what I'm going to try to explain to you today. So keep that in mind, and you can always reach out with questions, and I offer a consult, so if you need to dive in a little bit deeper, I am available. So emotional polarity technique, the overall concept is unearthing stuck emotions in your body. So we, utilize your own system, your body, to drive exactly where you're holding something that needs to be released in relationship to whatever your current problem is. So it kind of helps if I walk you through an example. So let's just say, what example do I want to use right now? Let's say you have a pattern of not being able to follow through on things. So let's say that you are noticing that you've got, things you want to do in life. And for whatever reason, you can't take that first step, or you get to a certain point in something and you sort of like peter out. You're not able to like keep going. Or, for me, this actually showed up early on in my healing journey. I had at the time I had a side, I don't know, I was freelance designing, and I also had my own business, and I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur, but I was illustrating and creating stationery and tea towels and tote bags to sell. And I would do that. And when I would go to focus on my business, I would go to sleep. Like I had every Friday I was off from my freelance gig, and which was a very stable gig. So, we can give a lot. I want to give you enough context so you're not like, well, maybe that was unstable, and so then you're exhausted or whatever. No, the freelance gig was very stable. And I was with them for like 4 years, and it made me enough money, and it was amazing, and it was very, satisfying from that perspective. And I still wanted to build my own thing and have my own personal creative outlet. And I had been creating stationery and doing this for also like all through college and for years. And there was a local store that I would, have my products in, and I would do craft fairs and things like that. And it was really lovely. But when it came time for that Friday to work on my own thing, I would feel like not sleepy tired. I would feel like a physical exhaustion. And then I would have to go lie down, and I would spend the whole day sleeping. And that's something that was a pattern that I remembered like from college, is that I would oftentimes feel this like body exhaustion and like fatigue. And I didn't know anything about chronic fatigue. I didn't know anything about any of that stuff. I just knew that this was a thing, and it was always connected to whenever I was doing my own stuff. And in college, it was connected to some other stuff. But, like when I would not be working on schoolwork and I would be like trying to do something for fun, I would feel really exhausted. So it was like almost like punishment for not like doing schoolwork or something. Anyway, I knew that there was some other energetic thing happening or emotional thing, but I didn't even know what to call it. I didn't know how to call it an emotional thing or an energetic thing. So anyway, when I started receiving EPT, that wasn't the main reason why I went. I had several reasons. I just kind of like showed up on my healer's doorstep and was like, I've got a cocktail of things, which would be a story for another day. But we did address that, and we addressed it very quickly. And what came forward was I was in depression, that I was entering depression whenever around that subject, around that particular area in life, I was experiencing depression. And I actually needed anxiety. So like a deadline, like, okay, the craft fair is in 2 weeks. You need to screen print like 100 things. Or the business, the shop is out of your product. Or I used to sell yearly calendars. So it was like the next year is approaching. It's time to pre-sell, all that stuff. So anyway, I needed that to enact the anxiety, to be able to work through the depression, like to have the energy to move through the depression. Kind of fucked up, right? So anyway, so let's say that's an example. Let's say there's something that, let's say you can't follow through on things and you don't really know why. And maybe it's like not everything in life. Maybe it is everything in life. Maybe you're just feeling really, really stuck. It's something I get a lot with people is that they just come in and they're feeling really stuck. So what we do is then, I connect into your body. I utilize muscle testing. I ask your system where we need to go. So we end up locating an organ. So say we'll locate your liver, and your liver holds anger, resentment, depression, etc., rage. And so we would locate whatever the emotion is associated with whatever you've come in with. And then we ask the body, and this is me just like asking the body questions. I'm literally asking your body. So what's very different about EPT is that you come in and, I'm obviously utilizing my like knowledge and experience and breadth of work and study, but I'm not just like, theorizing about what's going on with you. Your body is telling us what's going on. One of my clients called it like getting on the phone with my body. Like I just call up your body and I'm like, yo girl, what's up? And we'll just figure out what's going on. So, on my end, it's a little bit of like detective work. I'm asking questions and I'm trying to utilize deductive dialogue to get us down to something clear. And, so we look at the emotion, the organ, and then we ask, if it's your emotion, if it's someone else's emotion. Oftentimes we're carrying emotions for other people. And then I ask, what this is about. And that's the first thing. So once we check in with that and I ask you, that's when I come to you and I say, okay, this is what's coming forward. This is the first emotional pattern that we're working with today. What does this mean to you? And then you tell me what comes forward for you. And I test that too. So again, still using muscle testing, still checking in with your body. And if your body says yes, then we will release that emotional package. And then we'll move on. And when we move on, we actually ask your system if there is an earlier time that your body has felt a similar way that's connected to this. Basically, is there a deeper root? Is there an earlier part of my life? Is there a past life? Like sometimes that comes up. But typically, is there an earlier time that we need to go back to here? And oftentimes, not every time, oftentimes there's a yes. And then we figure out what age you were and what the dynamic is. So is it your emotion? Oftentimes if we're between the ages of 0 and 7 to 15, it's likely going to have something to do with your parents or caregivers. And whether it's you feeling a certain way with them or them, you actually like taking on their emotions. So oftentimes I work with clients who are like, I had a really great childhood. And actually I work with clients that have the whole gamut, right? But there are some clients that come in that are like, I had a really great childhood. I love my parents. I really like, I had a great experience, but whatever their parents were dealing with at that time, when they were 7 or 8, is actually something that they've been carrying. And so then because when we're young, we take everything in as reality, everything in as truth without any nuance, without any additional lenses of having the faculty to understand, well, dad is depressed because he was just laid off. Like, we don't understand that stuff when we're 7 or 6 or whatever. And so we'll take on dad's depression as a way to kind of help him, right? And so then you move through life through this lens of, when anything kind of similar is like triggering that, you are like knocking into dad's depression. You are like activating that neural pathway that knows, hey, this is where depression is. And we need to be in depression in order to like do something, in order to fix this or to keep this bad thing from happening, or whatever. It's a very, very broad example. It's much easier to explain when I'm working with you one-on-one, of course, but because as you can imagine, we are human. We all experience very similar, journeys when it comes to like a broad perspective, but each one of us has a very, very unique story. And so what I love so much about this modality is that we actually get down to your unique story. And, I won't get into this right now, but we also look at, is there trauma involved? Is your brain, is your body coding this experience as traumatic? And if so, is it phase 1 or is it phase 2? And how do we then appropriately address trauma right now so that your system can feel safe and secure, and your nervous system isn't like in fight, flight, or freeze, and we can actually allow this to move out of your body, literally move out of your body, and then reprogram or introduce. Reprogram is sometimes a little bit of a tricky way of thinking about it. But let's go back to reprogramming, like a computer program. It's like, oh, let's clean out the virus and let's put something new in here. That's like, lets this run a little bit better, right? So, but another way of putting it is, keeping the system safe so that you can release what is negative, what's blocking you, what's holding you back, what's keeping you in anxiety, what's keeping you in grief, what's keeping you in fear, whatever that is. And then we can invite a new story that can land somewhere in your system, in your heart. Your brain can get on board with it because we're reconciling what's happened. We're not just like trying to like throw some affirmations at you and get you to believe something new. We're actually like removing what was there, honoring what was there, forgiving the experience, whatever, creating reconciliation while we are honoring your body and your brain. So keeping your brain safe. It is safe for me to change. We don't, change is so hard because our minds, our brains don't want us to change because uncertainty is unsafe, So, I could talk about that forever, but basically what I love so much about this process is that it's just all encompassing. It hits on every single level of, it's addressing trauma, it's addressing, limiting beliefs, it's creating new worlds and realities that your brain can get on board with, that supports who you actually really are. So that's one thing that I'm really, that part of my practice, part of what I infuse into working with EPT is also like my mission is to help you show up as your most authentic self. And my belief is that when we are operating from our authenticity, when we're using our voice, when we are holding our boundaries, when we are in integrity with our personal code of honor, we experience the least resistance in life, and we can create new worlds and new realities and change, make beautiful changes. We can also then just live from a baseline of, happiness and joy and love and grace and compassion. And if everyone in the world was like 5, even just 1% happier, so much would change, right? And ultimately, though, what's actually happening is we're reclaiming all these parts of ourselves that we have separated from and we've created separation from. So kind of going back to that initial story about, holding dad's emotions when you were 7, you're actually saying to your 7-year-old self is saying, holding on to this for my dad is more important. Like keeping this in my body is more important than like than who I am right now and what I'm here to be doing right now. And so then you get filled up, and then you're also in this pattern of like boundary issues and whatever. But then you get filled up with, things that are not of you. We're all carrying around, imprints and ideas and concepts and actually physical emotions that are not ours. And physical, like emotions take up physical space in your body, right? So that's like why we can tap into this. So anyway, ultimately, we're here to clear. This work helps to clear your system of these negative emotions that have been stuck in there for who knows how long. Some of my clients come to me in their 60s and we go immediately back to some trauma that they experienced when they were 8 that they have completely put out of their mind. I mean, that shit has been running the show. 8-year-old self has been running the show for a long time, or, periodically runs the show, right? Not all the time, but when it gets triggered. And anyway, I find this work so fascinating. I feel like I'm just like a detective, it's like, it's putting the pieces together. But ultimately what happens is, the transformation that I've experienced and what I've witnessed is ultimately you have more agency, more power. You can actually see that you have a choice to act differently, to show up differently. So after session, you are presented, because it's life, right? Life is always working in your favor. Life is always trying to support you in your growth and evolution. You will be presented with, the next way of showing up, and you'll have the opportunity to show up to that thing differently. And you will actually feel more resourced. So this is the part of like keeping the whole mind, body, spirit, soul together. So not just working on one aspect. We're not just doing mindset work. We're doing somatic work, we're doing trauma work. It's like, it's a whole package, but having everybody on the same page, everyone on your team is on the same page, then you can actually feel more, you're truly not just feeling, but you feel, and you are truly more resourced to be able to make a decision that is in alignment with who you really are and what path you're like meant to be taking. And, some other just like really beautiful benefits is like, when, say you're doing some healing about your relationship with your mother or something, like it's not required that then you go to your mom and you hash it all out and you're like, you did this to me and blah, blah, blah. This came up in my session. Like, that's not required. Your energy shifts about that relationship. Your forgiveness toward your mother literally changes the dynamic. So then your mother presents to you in a different way because she's actually, her energy is knocking up against your energy in a different way. You're holding more full energy or something, and then she can't actually like come in a certain way. And the healing, I mean, I've seen and heard the craziest stories of, doing a healing on something that came up, and then the person that you're doing the healing on, like, calls the next day, or the person that was like part of your healing calls the next day. That is because we've like adjusted the energy and we've opened up the flow. I've had people, have children, siblings, whatever, give them a call and apologize for the thing that we were working on. So it's wild. It's wild. And also it's just really cool because it's possible, and it kind of, it opens yourself up. This is what happened to me when I first started, receiving this work. I never had the intention. I was a designer. I was doing really well in corporate. I was doing really well as a freelancer, and I felt like a total badass. I was like making more money than I used to make when I worked in corporate, and I just, I met the love of my life, and life was really amazing. It was, I was creating my life in the way I wanted to. However, when I was in these sessions, I just started getting like, wow, this is so powerful. And I would be in the middle of a session and be like, I can't wait to do this for somebody else, and to hold space in this way. And what's interesting is over time, my authentic self showed up. Over time, my heart's desire showed up, and I felt the deep call to make this transition and to incorporate this into my life. And that wasn't even the intention at the beginning. The intention at the beginning was, I have cystic acne. I had cystic acne for 17 years. And I had some, insecurity issues with that, as you might imagine. It was all through the chin. So when and it was nonstop. I mean, I never had a break. So it was just constant like cysts, you know, over and over and over again. And usually multiple cysts at one time. So a lot of makeup. And, you know, I would be in these like big meetings at work or meeting new people or whatever. And, you know, I had massive insecurity around that. And then I also was healing from a toxic relationship that I left. So I was in a relationship for 10 years and we, you know, split and there's abuse and all kinds of stuff. And so um, I sought this kind of work. It actually arrived because I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to like work with somebody. I did talk therapy in college, didn't enjoy it. I was like, I'm really good at analyzing my own shit. I don't need someone. And I'm also incredibly vulnerable. So like vulnerability isn't very hard for me. So that is something I work on with my clients. But so talk therapy, so being repeated back and reframing stuff from just the mindset, I didn't feel like it was deep enough. And so I was actually just, you know, curious, like I want something that feels more, I want to feel more involved in my healing. I don't want to feel like I'm going to somebody and having them tell me what's wrong or what's right. And then me needing to model that or me needing to shift that. I wanted something that actually made a shift and I wanted to go deep. I wanted to go deep. And this really offers that. And so if that's the kind of work that you're looking for, if you've tried other things, this is another thing. People come when they've tried shit and it doesn't work, right? I've worked with people who have had, you know, a lot of autoimmune issues that are like, just like cystic acne is autoimmune, or chronic fatigue, or, you know, truly I work mostly with people that are drawn to me are trying to create a life that is of love and of themselves. And so I work with a lot of people that just feel like stuck in their life and not knowing how to like move forward and not feeling empowered and not being able to use their voice. And I also work with a lot of entrepreneurs who have these beautiful gifts and they're afraid to show up and they're scared to show up. And, you know, working through some of those like monumental but fundamental fears around being seen and using their voice. And it's truly life-changing. So anyway, all right, I get a lot of questions about EPT, and I'm going to continue to try to make more videos about it, you know, as it comes up. But if you have any specific questions or if this resonated for you, I would love to know, because I want to be able to describe this in a way that, you know, that makes sense. And you know, I'm acknowledging that it can probably sound too good to be true. And I mean, yeah, I agree. So, yeah, but my experience has, you know, like I said, 17 years of cystic acne, and I go out in the morning walking my dog without makeup on or washing my face now. Like never in a million years did I think that was going to be the case. And I mean, you can't really see it here, but I have scarring. I mean, there's evidence that it was there. But it does not rule me anymore, you know, and I've healed from really toxic relationships and, you know, each and every day feel empowered to just continue to be my best self, you know, who I'm here to be. And I'm excited to share this with anyone who is fucking ready to go. So anyway, all right, wherever you're seeing this, there will be some way of contacting me. So feel free to reach out. I offer private, obviously private sessions. This is not something that really can be done in a group. Unfortunately, I would love to offer big group healings, but haven't really discovered how to do that yet. But yeah, I offer private sessions. I do private mentorship. So usually we start with, you know, I have a 3-month kind of container where I hold the vision for you, for whatever you're trying to create in your life or what you're trying to change and shift. And we do, obviously, the bulk of the work is doing EPT. I offer support in between sessions, but then we also share with you, I also share with you your human design and we look in astrology, but we look particularly at your North Node. So where your soul is headed in this life, and kind of use those two aspects as like coaching tools, or, you know, tools to kind of help guide you on your journey. So it's this idea of giving you the awareness of what your energetic blueprint is and what you're here for in this life. which gives you a lot of permission to like, oh, those heart's desires that I have are actually like put in me, so it gives you a lot of permission. It's super activating. But then I like to use EPT and this method as a way to kind of support you on your journey as you are becoming more you. So kind of like taking my journey that happened over the course of several years and like collapsing the timeline and dropping it into a dedicated 3-month container. Some clients want to work longer, but typically 3 months is what we do. And then, if you've got like a big life event that is, requires some deep healing after that, then some people come back. But typically it's it's just a life-changing experience and you move forward. So anyway, yeah, hit me up wherever you see where to link with me. And if this is calling to you, I'd be happy to meet you. Sending you lots of love.